You are more powerful than you've ever been told, but you've been taught to doubt it. You've been trained to flinch, to seek approval, to react. That ends now. This is your wake-up call. The world doesn't hand out power. It tests for it. And those who pass, they do so in silence. They walk through fire untouched. They act when others talk. The truth is simple. You were meant to find this power. And once you do, you'll never live the same again. Subscribe to our channel. If you're ready to master your mind, and tell us, where are you watching from? Before you ever dream of commanding others, you must first conquer the chaos within your own skull. This is not philosophy. This is survival. Every great leader in history understood one fundamental truth. The battlefield of the mind determines the outcome of every external war. Look around you. See how men stumble through life, slaves to their impulses, prisoners of their emotions, beggars for validation. They call this living. I call it dying slowly. You were not born for this mediocrity. You were born to rule. Starting with yourself. Here's what most people don't understand about power. It doesn't begin with armies or wealth or titles. It begins in the quiet moments when no one is watching, when your mind whispers quit and you choose to continue, when fear suggests retreat and you decide to advance, when comfort beckons and you embrace the struggle instead. The first territory you must claim is your own thoughts. Every morning you wake to find your mind invaded by doubts, distractions, and the opinions of lesser men. This is your daily siege. Will you surrender your mental fortress to these invaders, or will you stand guard at the gates of your consciousness? I have studied the rise and fall of princes for decades. The weak ones all shared the same flaw. They could not govern themselves. They were brilliant tacticians who crumbled under pressure, charismatic speakers who choked when stakes were high, visionary leaders who abandoned their vision at the first sign of resistance. But the ones who endured, the ones whose names echo through centuries, they mastered the art of self-dominion. First, they understood that external control is impossible without internal discipline. They knew that commanding respect from others begins with respecting your own potential. Your thoughts are not your master. Your emotions are not your commander. Your fears are not your general. You are. Every time you let these forces dictate your actions, you hand over your sovereignty to weaker powers. Every time you react instead of respond, you abdicate your throne. Start here. Start now. When anger rises, let it pass through you like wind through an open window. When doubt whispers, acknowledge it and proceed anyway. When others seek to pull you into their drama, remain unmoved like a mountain facing the storm. This is not about becoming cold or heartless. This is about becoming unshakable. The ruler who panics leads his people to disaster. The general who loses composure loses the war. The person who cannot control their inner world will never command their outer circumstances. But let me ask you this. When was the last time you truly tested your mental strength? When did you last choose difficulty over ease, discipline over comfort, growth over stagnation? If you cannot answer immediately, then you know why power feels distant. You've been negotiating with weakness instead of eliminating it. The path forward is simple, but not easy. Every day in small moments, practice ruling yourself. When you want to check your phone, don't. When you want to complain, choose silence. When you want to quit your workout early, push through. These aren't minor choices. They are declarations of war against the weak version of yourself. You were meant to rule yourself, not someday. Today, not when conditions are perfect, especially when they're not. The crown of self-mastery awaits, but only those who fight for it will wear it. The question is not whether you're capable. The question is whether you're willing to claim what was always yours. Power dies the moment it becomes predictable. The greatest mistake you can make is laying all your cards on the table, thinking honesty will win you allies. It won't. It will make you a target. Listen carefully. In a world where information is currency, Those who hoard it are rich, and those who spend it freely are poor. Every secret you share is a weapon you hand to your enemy. Every plan you reveal is a strategy you surrender. Every intention you broadcast is a move you can no longer make. The masters of influence understand this instinctively. They speak in riddles when others demand clarity. They smile when others expect anger. They retreat when others anticipate advance. They have learned the supreme art of keeping their opponents guessing, always one step behind, always reacting to shadows instead of substance. You've been taught that transparency is virtue. This is a lie designed to keep you weak. Transparency in the wrong hands is suicide. It's the reason why the loudest voices in the room rarely hold the real power. They've given away their mystery, their unpredictability, their edge. Here's what most people don't understand about strategy. The moment your enemy knows your complete plan, they control the game. They can prepare counters, set traps, rally opposition. But when they only see fragments, when they can only guess at your true intentions, they must defend against every possibility. They spread their resources thin. They make mistakes. They defeat themselves. Think of the greatest military victories in history. They weren't won by the armies that announced their battle plans. They were won by the generals who concealed their movements, who feinted left while striking right, who appeared weak when they were strong and strong when they were weak. This principle extends far beyond warfare. In business, the entrepreneur who telegraphs every move finds competitors waiting at every turn. In relationships, the person who reveals every insecurity loses respect and leverage. In personal development, those who announce every goal to the world often find their motivation spent in the telling. But let me ask you this: how many times have you sabotaged yourself by revealing too much too soon? How many opportunities have you lost because you couldn't resist the urge to show your hand? How many times has your honesty been used against you by those who practice deception? The art of concealment is not about lying. It's about selective revelation. It's about understanding that not every person deserves access to your thoughts, your plans, your vulnerabilities. It's about recognizing that mystery is magnetic, while predictability is repulsive. Start practicing strategic ambiguity today. When someone asks about your plans, share the outcome, not the method. When they probe for your weaknesses, deflect with questions about their own goals. When they expect you to react in familiar ways, surprise them with silence or an unexpected response. This doesn't mean becoming secretive about everything. It means becoming selective about what you reveal and to whom. Your closest allies might know more, but they should never know everything. Your enemies should know only what serves your purposes. The general public should see only the results, never the process. Master the art of the strategic pause. When pressed for immediate answers, buy time. When confronted with demands for full disclosure, offer partial truths that satisfy without revealing. When others rush to fill silence with words, use that silence to your advantage. Remember, every great leader in history understood this principle. They revealed enough to inspire confidence, but concealed enough to maintain control. They shared victories publicly while keeping failures private. They discussed their philosophy while hiding their methods. Your plans are sacred. Your strategies are precious. Your true intentions are your most valuable assets. Guard them like the treasures they are. Dole them out carefully, strategically, only when revelation serves your greater purpose. The world respects what it cannot fully understand. People are drawn to mystery and repelled by predictability. They follow leaders who surprise them, not those who bore them with complete transparency. Never reveal the whole map. Keep your opponents guessing. Let them wonder what you know that they don't. Let them fear what you might do next. Let them exhaust themselves trying to predict your unpredictable moves. In the game of power, information is ammunition. Don't hand your weapons to your enemies. Keep your powder dry, your plans hidden, and your true strength concealed until the moment you choose to strike. The element of surprise is the difference between victory and defeat. The man who is ruled by his emotions is ruled by everyone else. This is the harsh mathematics of power. Every time you react from feeling instead of thinking, you hand control of your life to whoever pushed your buttons. Every time you let anger decide your words, fear dictate your choices, or impulse drive your actions, you become a puppet, dancing to someone else's rhythm. Look around you. See how easily people are manipulated by their own feelings. Watch how predictably they respond to provocation. Observe how quickly they surrender their dignity for a moment of emotional satisfaction. These are not powerful people. These are children in adult bodies, controlled by forces they refuse to master. You feel anger when someone disrespects you. You feel fear when facing the unknown. You feel jealousy when others succeed. You feel sadness when plans fail. These emotions are not wrong. They are human. But the moment you let them drive your decisions, you cease to be a strategist and become a victim of your own internal weather. Here's what most people don't understand about emotional control. It's not about becoming a stone-cold machine without feelings. It's about creating space between what you feel and how you respond. It's about acknowledging the emotion without being enslaved by it. It's about using feelings as information, not as commands. The greatest leaders in history were not emotionless. They felt everything you feel. The difference is they refused to let those feelings make their decisions. When insulted, they paused before responding. When afraid, they acted. Despite the fear, when angry, they channeled that energy into calculated action rather than explosive reaction. Think about the last time someone made you furious. What did you do? Did you lash out immediately, saying things you later regretted? Did you make threats you couldn't back up? Did you burn bridges you later wished you could cross? Or did you pause, breathe, and choose your response based on what would serve your long-term objectives? The emotional person is predictable. Push button A, get reaction B. This makes them easy to control, easy to defeat, easy to dismiss. But the person who has mastered their emotional responses is dangerous because they're unpredictable. They might respond to insult with laughter, to threat with silence, to provocation with kindness. This confuses their opponents and keeps them off balance. But let me ask you this. How many opportunities have you lost because you couldn't control your temper? How many relationships have you damaged because you reacted instead of responded? How many times has your immediate emotional satisfaction cost you long-term strategic advantage? Start practicing emotional discipline today. When you feel anger rising, count to 10 before speaking. When fear whispers, retreat. Ask yourself what courage would do. When jealousy burns, use it as fuel to improve yourself rather than tear others down. When sadness threatens to paralyze you, honor the feeling, but choose action anyway. This is not about suppressing emotions. Suppressed emotions explode eventually, often at the worst possible moment. This is about creating a pause between feeling and action. In that pause lives your power. In that space between stimulus and response, you reclaim control of your life. Watch how the weak are controlled by their emotions. They can be made angry with a single comment. They can be paralyzed by a hint of criticism. They can be manipulated by flattery or threats. They give away their power every time they react predictably to emotional triggers. The strong acknowledge their emotions, but are not controlled by them. They feel the anger, but speak with calculation. They experience the fear, but move forward anyway. They notice the sadness, but focus on solutions rather than problems. They transform emotional energy into strategic advantage. Master this art, and you become virtually uncontrollable. When others cannot predict your emotional responses, they cannot manipulate you. When you respond from logic rather than feeling, your decisions serve your objectives rather than your immediate impulses. When you control your emotions rather than being controlled by them, you become the player instead of the played. Every time you choose response over reaction, you strengthen your emotional discipline. Every time you pause instead of exploding, You build your capacity for strategic thinking. Every time you act from calculation rather than feeling, you demonstrate the kind of self-mastery that makes others want to follow you. Emotion is not your enemy. Uncontrolled emotion is. Feel everything, but let wisdom, not impulse, guide your actions. In the space between what you feel and what you do, your destiny is decided. Choose wisely. The moment your next move becomes obvious, you lose the game. Predictability is the assassin of influence, the poison that kills power slowly but surely. When people can anticipate your every response, they no longer fear you, respect you, or need you. You become a known quantity in a world that values mystery. Think about the people who hold real influence in your life. Are they the ones whose reactions you can predict with perfect accuracy? Or are they the ones who keep you guessing, who surprise you with unexpected responses, who force you to stay alert because you never know what they might do next? The predictable person is a tool. Press this button, get that result. Say these words, trigger that response. Offer this incentive, receive that behavior. They have trained everyone around them to see them as a simple machine with obvious inputs and outputs. This is not power. This is programming. Here's what most people don't understand about human nature. We are wired to lose interest in what we can fully predict. The movie with the obvious ending bores us. The conversation that follows the same script every time becomes tedious. The person whose every reaction we can forecast becomes invisible. But unpredictability? That commands attention. It creates tension. It generates respect. When people cannot anticipate your next move, they must pay closer attention to you. They must invest more energy in understanding you. They must treat you as a force to be reckoned with rather than a problem to be solved. This doesn't mean being random or chaotic. There's a crucial difference between unpredictability and instability. The unstable person is erratic, unreliable, dangerous in ways that push people away. The unpredictable person is surprising, but consistent in their values, unexpected, but reliable in their commitments. Study the masters of influence throughout history. They shared one common trait. You could never quite figure them out completely. Churchill would follow a thunderous speech with gentle humor. Roosevelt would respond to attacks with disarming charm, then strike back when least expected. They kept their opponents and allies alike slightly off balance, never quite sure what was coming next. The predictable person argues every time they're criticized, so critics know exactly how to control them, just question their competence and watch them explode. The unpredictable person might respond to criticism with questions, with agreement, with silence, or with unexpected appreciation. This keeps critics uncertain and cautious. But let me ask you this, how predictable have you become? When someone disagrees with you, do you always argue? When someone compliments you, do you always deflect? When someone challenges you, do you always fight back? If your responses follow the same pattern every time, you've made yourself controllable. Start varying your responses today. When someone expects you to be upset, try being amused instead. When they anticipate your anger, respond with curiosity. When they're prepared for your usual defensive reactions, surprise them with genuine interest in their perspective. This principle extends beyond interpersonal relationships into every area of influence. The employee who always says yes becomes invisible. The employee who always says no becomes irrelevant. But the employee whose response depends on the situation, who carefully evaluates each request, who sometimes surprises with their answer, that person holds attention and earns respect. In negotiations, the person whose bottom line is obvious has already lost. But the person whose true position remains mysterious holds all the cards. The seller who will clearly accept any offer gets lowballed. The buyer who might walk away at any moment gets the best deal. Your unpredictability must be grounded in principle, not chaos. People should be uncertain about your methods, but confident in your values. They should be surprised by your tactics, but trust your character. This creates the perfect combination: respect for your consistency plus attention to your variability. Practice strategic inconsistency. Vary your communication style. Change your response patterns. When everyone expects you to go left, consider going right. When they anticipate your usual approach, try something completely different. Keep them guessing. Keep them engaged. Keep them respectful. The predictable person becomes furniture, present but unnoticed, functional but unimportant. The unpredictable person becomes a force of nature, impossible to ignore, difficult to control, essential to consider in every calculation. Stop being so easy to read. Stop following the same scripts. Stop giving everyone around you the comfort of knowing exactly how you'll respond to every situation. In a world full of predictable people, the one who keeps others guessing holds tremendous power. Your unpredictability is your edge. Guard it, cultivate it, use it wisely. In the game of influence, those who cannot be predicted cannot be controlled. Heat clouds judgment. Passion blinds reason. The hot mind makes decisions that the cool mind must later repair. In the moments that matter most, when stakes are highest and consequences most severe, power belongs not to the loudest voice or the strongest emotion, but to the coldest calculation. Watch how the weak operate. They make their most important decisions when they're angry, afraid, excited, or desperate. They sign contracts in euphoria and quit jobs in rage. They end relationships in the heat of argument and start new ones in the flush of infatuation. Then they spend years dealing with the consequences of choices made when their thinking was clouded by feeling. The cold mind is not a frozen heart. It's a clear lens. It sees situations as they are, not as emotions paint them. It evaluates options based on outcomes, not on how those options make you feel in the moment. It chooses the path that serves long-term objectives, even when short-term impulses pull in different directions. Here's what most people don't understand about detachment. They confuse it with not caring, but the opposite is true. The person who maintains emotional distance cares so much about the outcome that they refuse to let temporary feelings sabotage permanent results. They are so committed to winning that they won't let anger make them stupid or fear make them weak. Think about the greatest strategic minds in history. When armies approached their gates, they didn't panic, they calculated. When betrayed by allies, they didn't rage, they planned. When facing impossible odds, they didn't despair, they innovated. Their emotional detachment wasn't coldness, it was professional excellence under extreme pressure. The hot decision looks satisfying in the moment, but costs dearly later. The angry email feels good to send, but destroys relationships. The fearful retreat feels safe, but eliminates opportunities. The impulsive purchase brings temporary joy, but creates lasting financial strain. The passionate outburst provides momentary release but damages reputation permanently. But let me ask you this. How many of your worst decisions were made when your emotions were running hot? How many problems in your life can be traced back to choices made in anger, fear, or excitement? How many opportunities have you lost because you couldn't maintain clear thinking under pressure? Start practicing emotional cooling today. When you feel the heat rising, whether from anger, fear, excitement, or desperation, create space before deciding. Walk away from the negotiation table. Sleep on the big decision. Count to 100 before responding to the provocative message. Let the emotional temperature drop before the rational mind takes control. This doesn't mean ignoring your emotions. It means not letting them drive the vehicle. Feel the anger, but don't let it choose your words. Acknowledge the fear, but don't let it limit your options. Notice the excitement, but don't let it override your judgment. Experience the desperation, but don't let it force premature action. The cold mind asks better questions. Instead of, how can I hurt them back, it asks, what outcome do I actually want? Instead of, how can I escape this discomfort, it asks, what would serve my long-term interests? Instead of, how can I feel better right now? It asks, what would my future self thank me for doing? Master the art of the strategic pause. When pressure mounts and everyone expects immediate action, resist the urge to react quickly just to relieve tension. The person who can maintain clarity while others lose their heads gains enormous advantage. They see opportunities that panic obscures. They notice solutions that emotion blinds us to. This is why the most powerful people often appear unflappable. It's not that they don't feel pressure, it's that they've learned to think clearly despite it. They've developed the discipline to separate their emotional experience from their decision-making process. They can be afraid and still act courageously, angry and still choose wisely, excited and still think rationally. Your emotional states will change constantly. Your moods will shift with circumstances. Your feelings will fluctuate with events. But your ability to maintain clear thinking regardless of emotional weather, that is the skill that separates leaders from followers, winners from losers, masters from slaves. The hot mind reacts. The cold mind responds. The hot mind solves today's problem while creating tomorrow's crisis. The cold mind makes decisions that solve problems permanently. The hot mind feels good in the moment. The cold mind builds good outcomes over time. In the heat of the moment, remember this: the decision that feels most satisfying emotionally is usually the worst one strategically. The choice that your feelings demand is rarely the choice your objectives require. Power belongs to those who can think clearly when thinking clearly is most difficult. Cool your mind, clear your vision, calculate your moves. In the moments when everyone else is driven by heat, your coldness becomes your competitive advantage. The right action at the wrong time is the wrong action. The perfect strategy executed too early fails just as surely as the perfect strategy executed too late. In the mathematics of power, timing multiplies effectiveness. One well-timed move accomplishes what 100 poorly timed moves cannot. Most people fail not because their ideas are wrong, but because their timing is off. They speak truth when no one is ready to hear it. They make offers when the market isn't prepared to buy. They push for change when resistance is strongest. They act when they should wait, and wait when they should act. Watch how nature operates. The hunter doesn't strike when the prey is alert and surrounded by the herd. The farmer doesn't plant seeds in frozen ground. The tide doesn't fight the moon. It follows its rhythm and becomes unstoppable. The most powerful forces in nature understand that timing transforms ordinary actions into extraordinary results. Here's what most people don't understand about opportunity. It's not just about being prepared when chance arrives. It's about recognizing when conditions are ripe for your particular type of preparation. It's about sensing when the environment has shifted to favor your specific strengths and objectives. The impatient person forces doors that aren't ready to open and wonder why their efforts produce so little result. They exhaust themselves fighting currents instead of riding them. They waste energy pushing against resistance that a little patience would dissolve. They mistake activity for progress and urgency for importance. But the patient strategist waits for the convergence of factors that make success inevitable. They study patterns, watch for signs, feel for the shift in momentum that signals the moment to strike. They understand that the right timing can make a small action produce massive results, while wrong timing can make massive action produce nothing. Think about the great military victories throughout history. They weren't won by the strongest armies. They were won by leaders who chose exactly the right moment to attack, when the enemy was overextended, demoralized, distracted, or divided. When weather, terrain, and circumstances aligned to maximize advantage. This principle applies to every area of life. The entrepreneur who launches during economic uncertainty struggles, while the one who waits for market recovery thrives. The person who asks for a promotion during budget cuts gets rejected, while the one who waits for the company's profitable quarter gets promoted. The individual who tries to have a serious conversation when tensions are high creates conflict, while The one who waits for calm creates connection. But let me ask you this. How often do you force timing instead of finding it? How many failures in your life came from pushing when you should have waited or waiting when you should have pushed? How many opportunities have you missed because you couldn't sense when the moment was right? Start developing your timing instincts today. Pay attention to rhythms in markets, in relationships, in organizations, in your own energy patterns. Notice when people are most receptive to your ideas and when they're most resistant. Observe when conditions favor your strengths and when they favor your competitors. Learn to read the signs that indicate timing is shifting. When your opposition is distracted by other problems, that's when you advance your agenda. When your audience is struggling with a challenge you can solve, that's when you present your solution. When the market is hungry for what you offer, that's when you launch. The art of timing requires patience, but not passivity. While you wait for the right moment, you prepare. You sharpen your skills, gather resources, build relationships, refine strategies. You don't just wait. You prepare to capitalize on the moment when it arrives. Sometimes the right timing means acting before you feel ready. When competitors are slow to respond, when windows of opportunity are closing, when market conditions are perfect but won't last, hesitation kills more dreams than failure does. The person who waits for perfect conditions waits forever. Other times, the right timing means having the discipline to wait when every instinct screams for action. When emotions are high, when opposition is strong, when conditions are unfavorable, forcing action leads to unnecessary casualties and wasted resources. Master the rhythm of advance and retreat. Push when conditions favor progress. Pull back when resistance is too strong. Circle around obstacles instead of attacking them head-on. Use timing like a martial artist uses leverage to multiply the impact of every move. The greatest power lies not in having the best strategy, but in knowing exactly when to execute it. The sharpest sword in the wrong hands at the wrong time cuts nothing, but the simplest tool in skilled hands at the perfect moment can change everything. Your timing is your edge. Develop it, trust it, use it. In a world of people who act too early or too late, the one who moves at exactly the right moment holds tremendous advantage. Wait for your moment. But when it comes, strike without hesitation. The window of perfect timing opens and closes quickly. Miss it, and you may wait years for it to open again. Your mouth is your greatest liability until you learn to control it. Every unnecessary word is intelligence given to your enemies. Every loose comment is a weapon placed in opposing hands. Every casual revelation is a strategic advantage surrendered. The person who speaks without thinking hands power to those who listen with purpose. Look around any room and identify the most powerful person present. It's rarely the one talking the most. Power doesn't announce itself with volume or frequency. It reveals itself through selective communication, calculated silence, and the magnetic force of words saved for the right moment. The weak cannot tolerate silence. They fill every pause with noise, every gap with chatter, every moment of quiet with meaningless sound. They mistake talking for communicating, volume for authority, frequency for importance. They reveal their thoughts, plans, fears, and desires to anyone willing to listen. Then they wonder why they have no influence. Here's what most people don't understand about communication. It's not about what you say. It's about what you choose not to say. The unsaid word carries more weight than the spoken one. The unstated threat is more powerful than the explicit warning. The unasked question commands more attention than the obvious inquiry. Watch how information flows in any organization, relationship, or social group. Those who speak constantly are treated as background noise. Their words lose value through overuse. But the person who speaks rarely, who chooses words carefully, who lets others fill the silence, their occasional comments carry tremendous weight. Silence is not emptiness. It's potential energy. It's compressed power waiting for the right moment to release. When you speak less, people lean in more. When you reveal less, they become more curious. When you demand less attention, you naturally command more respect. The compulsive talker tells you everything they know, think, and feel within the first conversation. They have no mystery left to discover, no depth left to explore, no surprises left to uncover. They've spent their entire conversational capital in a single interaction, but the strategic communicator rations their words like a wise investor manages money. They reveal information in measured doses, share insights when impact will be maximized, and save their best material for the moments that matter most. But let me ask you this. How often do you speak just to fill silence? How many times have you revealed more than necessary simply because someone asked? How often do you find yourself explaining, justifying, or defending when you could have remained mysteriously quiet? Start practicing selective communication today. Before you speak, ask yourself, does this serve my objectives? Will this information help or hurt my position? Am I speaking because I have something valuable to add or because I'm uncomfortable? With silence, learn to let others talk while you listen strategically. Every person you meet is carrying valuable intelligence about themselves, their organizations, their plans, their weaknesses. But they'll only share this intelligence with people who seem trustworthy, understanding, genuinely interested. The person asking questions often learns more than the person giving answers. Master the power of the strategic pause. When someone asks a question you don't want to answer, pause before responding. Often they'll fill the silence by clarifying their question, revealing why they're asking or even answering it themselves. When someone makes a demand, let the silence stretch. They may negotiate with themselves before you even speak. This doesn't mean becoming antisocial or mysterious for its own sake. It means becoming intentional about communication. Speak when your words will have impact. Stay silent when silence serves your purposes better. Ask questions that reveal useful information. Make statements that advance your objectives. The person who watches more and speaks less gathers intelligence while others leak it. They understand the dynamics of power, while others remain confused by them. They spot opportunities while others miss them by talking too much to notice. Your observations are often more valuable than your opinions. Your questions are frequently more powerful than your statements. Your silence can communicate more authority than your speeches. In negotiations, the person who speaks first often loses. They reveal their position, their desperation, their bottom line. The person who waits, who listens, who forces others to make the first offer gains tremendous advantage. In conflicts, the person who argues loudest often loses respect. They appear desperate, out of control, weak. The person who remains calm, who speaks precisely, who forces others to become emotional while they stay rational, wins by contrast. Your words are ammunition. Don't waste them on meaningless targets. Save them for the shots that count. Make every sentence serve a purpose. Every conversation should leave you either better informed or better positioned. The world is full of people dying to tell you everything. They know. Let them. While they're talking, you're learning. While they're revealing, you're concealing. While they're giving away their advantages, you're accumulating yours. Speak less. Watch more. Listen strategically. In a noisy world, silence is golden, and the person who hoards it becomes rich in power. Every time you seek approval, you hand someone else the remote control to your life. Every time you pause to ask, what will they think? You surrender your power to people who may not even deserve your respect. Every time you modify your behavior to win praise, you teach the world that you can be controlled by the simple act of withholding validation. The approval seeker is the easiest person to manipulate. They will change their opinions, compromise their values, and abandon their goals for the temporary comfort of external validation. They have made themselves prisoners of other people's opinions, slaves to social acceptance, beggars for recognition. They should never need. Watch how this plays out in every area of life. The employee who desperately needs their boss's approval works longer hours for less pay, accepts disrespect without complaint, and compromises their personal life for a pat on the head. The person who craves social approval buys things they can't afford, attends events they don't enjoy, and maintains relationships that drain their energy. Here's what most people don't understand about approval addiction. It's not about being likable or maintaining good relationships. It's about giving away your internal compass and letting other people's reactions determine your direction. It's about trading your authenticity for acceptance and your power for popularity. The person who needs approval cannot lead because leadership requires making decisions that not everyone will like. They cannot innovate because innovation challenges existing opinions. They cannot stand for principles because principles sometimes conflict with popular sentiment. They become followers disguised as leaders, weather vanes spinning with every shift in social wind. But the person who has cut the approval leash operates from a different source of power. They make decisions based on what serves their objectives, not what wins applause. They speak truth even when it's unpopular. They take unpopular stands when their values demand it. They pursue their vision even when others don't understand it. This doesn't mean becoming antisocial or deliberately offensive. It means developing an internal source of validation that doesn't depend on external approval. It means caring more about being effective than being liked, more about being respected than being popular, more about being right than being accepted. Think about the most influential people you know. Do they constantly seek approval, or do they operate from internal conviction? Do they change their message based on their audience, or do they maintain consistency regardless of who's listening? Do they apologize for their decisions, or do they stand behind them with confidence? The approval seeker says what people want to hear. The powerful person says what people need to hear. The approval seeker modifies their behavior to fit in. The powerful person maintains their standards and lets others rise to meet them. The approval seeker asks for permission. The powerful person acts and deals with consequences. But let me ask you this. How many opportunities have you missed because you were afraid of disapproval? How many times have you stayed silent when you should have spoken up? How many decisions have you postponed because you couldn't guarantee a positive reaction? How much of your potential remains unexpressed because you're afraid of judgment? Start cutting the approval leash today. Make one decision based purely on what you believe is right, regardless of what others might think. Express one opinion that reflects your true thoughts rather than what you think people want to hear. Take one action that serves your objectives, even if it risks disapproval. This process isn't about becoming callous or ignoring all feedback. It's about changing the source of your validation from external to internal. It's about caring more about your own assessment of your actions than about other people's reactions to them. Learn to distinguish between useful feedback and meaningless noise. The opinion of someone you respect, who has relevant expertise, who wants to see you succeed, that's worth considering. The random judgment of strangers, the jealous criticism of competitors, the fearful warnings of people who've never attempted what you're attempting, that's noise. The strangest thing happens. When you stop seeking approval, you often get more of it. People are drawn to confidence, repelled by neediness. They respect those who don't need their validation and lose interest in those who beg for it. The person who doesn't need approval often receives it freely, while the person who desperately seeks it gets it rarely. Your mission is not to be liked by everyone. It's impossible anyway. Your mission is to be respected by those who matter and to matter to yourself. Some people will approve of your choices, others will disapprove. Neither reaction should determine your course. The approval seeker asks, "What will they think?" The powerful person asks, "What do I think?" The approval seeker worries. What if they don't like it? The powerful person focuses, "What if this works?" The approval seeker hesitates. "Maybe I should wait for permission." The powerful person acts, "I'll deal with the consequences." Cut the leash. Stop giving other people veto power over your life. Stop letting their approval or disapproval determine your actions. Start operating from your own center, your own values, your own assessment of what needs to be done. The world doesn't need another approval seeker. It needs people who will act from conviction, speak from truth, and lead from strength. It needs people who care more about being effective than being popular. You were not born to live for other people's approval. You were born to live from your own power. The choice is yours, but the leash will only be cut by your own hand. Your intentions are your most precious secrets. The moment you announce your goals to the world, you invite opposition, competition, and sabotage. Every plan shared carelessly is a strategy compromised. Every dream spoken too freely is a target painted on your back. The naive believe that sharing their intentions will attract support and accountability. Sometimes it does. More often, it attracts interference, judgment, and active resistance from people who benefit from your current position or who feel threatened by your potential success. Watch what happens when someone announces they're going to lose weight, start a business, write a book, or change careers. Suddenly, everyone becomes an expert on why it won't work. Family members list all the reasons for failure. Friends share stories of others who tried and failed. Colleagues question the wisdom of leaving security for uncertainty. This isn't always malicious. Sometimes it comes from genuine concern. But the effect is the same. Your intention, once public, becomes everyone else's business. Your private vision becomes a public debate. Your personal mission becomes a community discussion where everyone gets a vote except the only person whose vote should matter: you. Here's what most people don't understand about intention and achievement. The energy you spend explaining your plans is energy stolen from executing them. The time you invest defending your dreams is time not spent building them. The mental space occupied by other people's opinions is space not available for your own creative thinking. There's a psychological principle at work here. When you tell people about your goals, your brain receives a small hit of satisfaction, as if you've already accomplished something. The social recognition for having good intentions can reduce the motivation needed to turn those intentions into reality. You get a reward for planning without the effort of doing. The masters of achievement understand this instinctively. They work in silence and let their results speak. They guard their intentions like military secrets and reveal their plans only when revelation serves their strategic purposes. They know that the most powerful projects are often the ones no one sees coming. Think about the most successful people you know. Did they announce every goal before achieving it? Did they seek public approval for their plans before executing them? Or did they work quietly, consistently, privately, until their results were undeniable? This principle protects you from multiple threats. It shields you from discouragement disguised as advice. It prevents competitors from preparing countermeasures. It eliminates the pressure to perform on other people's timelines. It frees you from having to justify your methods to people who don't understand your vision. But let me ask you this: how many of your dreams have died in the discussion phase? How many goals have been abandoned after facing a barrage of skeptical questions? How many plans have been modified or diluted to satisfy other people's comfort levels? How much energy have you wasted defending decisions that required no one's approval but your own? Start treating your intentions like classified information. Share them only with people who need to know, who can actually help, who have earned the right to your trust through previous support. Create a fortress of privacy around your most important goals. This doesn't mean becoming secretive about everything. It means being selective about what you reveal and to whom. Your completed achievements can be public, your proven successes can be celebrated. But your developing plans, your forming intentions, your emerging dreams, these deserve protection. When people ask about your goals, master the art of deflection. Share your philosophy without revealing your strategy. Discuss your interests without exposing your timeline. Describe your general direction without mapping your specific route. Give them enough to satisfy curiosity without enough to interfere with execution. The person who guards their intentions maintains several advantages. They can change course without public embarrassment. They can experiment with methods without public judgment. They can fail and recover without public documentation. They can succeed without having to share credit with everyone who offered unsolicited advice. Your intentions are seeds that need protected ground to grow. Exposed too early to harsh elements, they may never survive to become the achievements they were meant to be. But protected, nurtured in privacy, allowed to develop without interference, they can grow into results that surprise everyone, including yourself. The fortress you build around your intentions isn't built from fear. It's built from wisdom. It protects not because you're ashamed of your dreams, but because you're serious about achieving them. It guards not because you doubt yourself, but because you understand the value of what you're protecting. Build the fortress. Guard the gates. Let your intentions develop in the safety of silence. When the time comes to reveal your plans, do it with results, not promises. Show the world what you've accomplished, not what you hope to accomplish. Your dreams deserve better than to be thrown into the arena of public opinion before they're strong enough to survive the battle. Protect them, guard them, let them grow, in secret, until they're powerful enough to speak for themselves. Leadership is not a group activity. Before you can guide others, you must first prove you can navigate alone. Before you can inspire confidence in followers, you must demonstrate confidence in your own judgment. Before you can lead the crowd, you must be willing to move when the crowd refuses to follow. The person who cannot act without consensus will never lead anything meaningful. They will spend their entire life waiting for permission, seeking approval, building committees to share, responsibility for decisions they should make alone. They mistake collaboration for leadership and groupthink for wisdom. Watch how real leaders emerge. They don't wait for others to recognize the need for action. They don't form committees to study obvious problems. They don't seek votes before addressing urgent situations. They see what needs to be done and they move alone if necessary, confident that others will follow once the path is proven. This solitary movement requires tremendous courage because you cannot guarantee that others will join you. You must be prepared to fail alone, to be criticized alone, to be misunderstood alone. You must value being right more than being popular, being effective more than being accepted, being necessary more than being liked. Here's what most people don't understand about solitary action. It's not about isolation or antisocial behavior. It's about developing the internal strength to move forward even when external support is absent. It's about building such confidence in your judgment that you can act on it without needing validation from others. The crowd mentality seeks safety in numbers, comfort in consensus, and security in shared responsibility. This is why crowds rarely innovate, seldom take risks, and almost never lead change. They are designed for stability, not progress. They preserve the status quo while leaders create the new quo. But the person who moves alone first develops several critical advantages. They learn to trust their own judgment under pressure. They build resilience against criticism and doubt. They develop the ability to see opportunities that others miss because they're not limited by groupthink or paralyzed by committee decision-making. Think about every significant advance in human history. Was it achieved by committees or by individuals willing to challenge conventional wisdom? Did groups discover scientific principles, create artistic masterpieces, or build great enterprises? Or did lone innovators move first, face resistance, and gradually attract followers to their vision? The paradox of leadership is this: you must be willing to lead alone in order to earn the right to lead others. Those who can only function with group support will never command group respect, but those who can function independently earn the trust of those who cannot. But let me ask you this: when was the last time you took action on something important without waiting for others to agree? When did you last pursue an opportunity despite skepticism from your peers? How often do you modify your plans to accommodate people who aren't even participating in their execution? Start practicing solitary movement today. Identify one area where you've been waiting for others to join you before taking action. Stop waiting. Move alone. Take the first step without guarantee that others will follow. Prove to yourself that you can navigate uncertainty without consensus. This doesn't mean becoming a lone wolf who rejects all collaboration. It means developing the capacity to lead when leadership is needed, even when, especially when, others hesitate. It means being willing to be the first one to move, the first one to speak up, the first one to take responsibility. The person who moves alone first often discovers that leadership was never about commanding others. It was about commanding themselves. It was never about having followers. It was about having the courage to go first. It was never about being popular. It was about being necessary. When you demonstrate the ability to move effectively alone, something interesting happens. People begin to pay attention. They start to trust your judgment because you've proven it works even without their input. They begin to see you as someone who can be relied upon to take action when action is needed. This is how influence is built. Not through charisma or manipulation, but through demonstrated competence under pressure. Not through promises or speeches, but through results achieved when results seemed impossible. Not through committee leadership, but through personal leadership that proves worthy of following. The crowd will follow, but only after you've proven the path is viable. They will support your vision, but only after you've shown it can survive reality. They will join your mission, but only after you've demonstrated commitment by moving alone when they were afraid to move at all. Solitude is not loneliness. It's preparation. It's where leaders are forged, where confidence is built, where the capacity for independent action is developed. The person who cannot be alone can never truly lead others because they lack the internal resources necessary for command. Move alone first. Prove your path works. Show that your judgment can be trusted. Demonstrate that your vision can survive. Skepticism. Then, and only then, invite others to join you. The crowd needs leaders who have already proven they can succeed without the crowd. Be that leader. Move alone. The followers will come when they see where your solitary movement has taken you. Reality is what happens. Perception is what matters. In the game of influence, the person who controls how they are perceived holds more power than the person who controls what actually occurs. People respond to their interpretation of events, not to the events themselves. Master perception, and you master the world's response to your actions. The naive believe that good work speaks for itself, that truth always emerges, that results alone determine reputation. This is a dangerous fantasy. The world is full of competent people who are ignored because they cannot manage perception, and mediocre people who are celebrated because they understand that image often trumps reality. Watch how this plays out. In every sphere of life, the politician who cannot craft their message loses to the one who can, regardless of policy quality. The employee who cannot communicate their value gets passed over for promotion, while the one who can highlight their contributions advances. The business that cannot shape customer perception fails, while the one that masters marketing succeeds. This isn't about deception or dishonesty. It's about understanding that perception is itself a reality that must be managed as carefully as any other aspect of your strategy. People make decisions based on their perceptions, and those decisions create real consequences. Ignore perception management, and you surrender control over how others respond to you. Here's what most people don't understand about perception versus reality. Reality is what you know about yourself and your actions. Perception is what others believe about you and your actions. In most situations, their perception of you has more immediate impact on your life than your reality does. The person who does excellent work in obscurity achieves nothing compared to the person who does good work visibly. The individual with great ideas who cannot communicate them effectively loses to the person with decent ideas who can present them compellingly. Substance matters, but presentation determines whether substance gets the chance to make a difference. This principle operates at every level. Your boss's perception of your performance affects your career more than your actual performance does. Your customer's perception of your value determines your income more than your actual value does. Your community's perception of your character influences your opportunities more than your private character does. But let me ask you this: how much time do you spend managing how your work is perceived versus actually doing the work? How often do you assume that good results will speak for themselves? How many times have you been frustrated when your efforts went unnoticed or unappreciated? Start treating perception as a skill to be mastered, not an afterthought to be ignored. Every interaction is an opportunity to shape how others see you. Every communication is a chance to influence interpretation of your actions. Every public moment is a platform for managing your image. This doesn't mean becoming fake or manipulative. It means becoming intentional about how your authentic self is presented and perceived. It means understanding that even truth must be packaged properly to be received effectively. It means recognizing that people's first impressions often determine whether they'll invest the time to discover your deeper qualities. Learn to control the narrative around your actions before others. Create one for you. When you complete a project, don't just deliver results, communicate the story of how those results serve larger objectives. When you face a setback, don't just recover. Explain how the recovery demonstrates your resilience and problem-solving abilities. Master the art of strategic positioning. Present your strengths in contexts where they appear most impressive. Frame your achievements in terms that resonate with your audience's values and priorities. Time your communications for maximum impact and minimal interference from competing messages. The wise person understands that perception has momentum. Early impressions tend to reinforce themselves. People look for evidence that confirms their initial judgments and ignore evidence that contradicts them. This is why first impressions matter so much, and why recovering from a damaged reputation is so difficult. But it also means that positive perceptions can create positive cycles. When people believe you're competent, they notice your successes and overlook your mistakes. When they perceive you as trustworthy, they interpret ambiguous actions favorably. When they see you as valuable, they create opportunities for you to demonstrate that value. The person who neglects perception management becomes victim to other people's interpretations of their actions, but the person who masters it maintains control over their own narrative. They shape how their work is understood, how their character is judged, how their potential is assessed. This isn't about creating false impressions. It's about ensuring that true impressions are accurately conveyed. It's about making sure your reality is perceived clearly rather than distorted by poor communication, bad timing, or inadequate presentation. The world judges by appearances because it has no other choice. Most people lack the time, access, or expertise to evaluate your reality directly. They must rely on signals, indicators, and surface impressions to make decisions about you. Understanding this isn't cynical, it's realistic. Perception is your weapon. Learn to wield it skillfully. Present yourself deliberately. Communicate strategically. Build your image as carefully as you build your skills. In a world where perception often determines opportunity, those who master the art of being seen as they truly are hold tremendous advantage over those who assume their work will speak for itself. Victory belongs not to the loudest voice, but to the clearest mind. In conflict, the person who shouts has already lost control. The person who argues emotionally has handed their opponent the advantage. The person who reacts with heat will be defeated by someone who responds with calculation. Watch how the weak handle conflict. They raise their voices as if volume could substitute for logic. They make threats they cannot execute, as if bluffing could replace strength. They argue every point as if winning debates could win wars. They exhaust themselves fighting battles that don't matter, while losing the wars that do. The calculated Fighter understands that conflict is a chess game, not a shouting match. Every move should serve a strategic purpose. Every response should advance their position. Every word should either gather information or provide advantage. Emotion is fuel, not guidance. Passion is energy, not strategy. Here's what most people don't understand about winning conflicts. It's not about being right in the moment. It's about achieving your objectives over time. It's not about having the last word. It's about creating lasting outcomes that serve your interests. It's not about dominating conversations. It's about influencing decisions. The loud fighter believes that intensity demonstrates strength. Actually, it reveals desperation. When someone must yell to be heard, it suggests their arguments cannot stand on their own merit. When someone must attack personally instead of addressing issues, it shows they lack substantive responses. When someone must fight every battle, it proves they don't understand which battles matter. But the calculated fighter chooses their battles carefully. They understand that not every provocation deserves a response. Not every insult requires retaliation. Not every challenge needs to be met immediately. They fight only when victory serves their larger objectives and when they can control the terms of engagement. Think about the most effective people you know in handling conflict. Do they explode with emotion, or do they remain controlled under pressure? Do they argue about everything, or do they choose their spots strategically? Do they try to win every exchange, or do they focus on winning what matters most? The calculated approach requires tremendous discipline because your ego wants immediate satisfaction. When attacked, you want to strike back instantly. When insulted, you want to defend your honor immediately. When challenged, you want to prove your strength right now. But these emotional impulses often lead to tactical mistakes that cost strategic advantage. But let me ask you this: how many conflicts in your life have been made worse by your emotional reactions? How many arguments have you won in the moment, but lost in the long run? How many relationships have been damaged because you chose heat over calculation? How many opportunities have you lost because you couldn't control your response to provocation? Start practicing calculated conflict today. When someone provokes you, pause before responding. Ask yourself, what outcome do I actually want from this situation? Will an emotional response help me achieve that outcome? What would a strategic response look like? Sometimes the most powerful move is no move at all. Learn to use silence as a weapon. When someone attacks you verbally, let the silence stretch. Often they'll continue talking and reveal more than they intended. They'll make their position weaker, while you learn valuable information about their motivations, fears, and objectives. Master the art of deflection without retreat. You don't have to engage every argument or answer every accusation. You can redirect attention to larger issues, ask questions that put pressure on your opponent, or simply refuse to be drawn into unproductive debates. That's an interesting perspective, can be more powerful than a detailed rebuttal. The calculated fighter also understands timing. Sometimes the right response is immediate and decisive. Other times, the right response is delayed until conditions favor success. Sometimes the right response is public and visible. Other times, the right response is private and targeted. When you must fight to win decisively. Don't engage in prolonged conflicts that drain your energy and resources. Don't participate in public arguments that damage your reputation regardless of who wins. Don't waste time on conflicts with people who don't matter to your objectives. The person who masters calculated conflict gains several advantages. They conserve energy for battles that matter. They maintain relationships even through disagreements. They appear more professional and controlled to observers. They often get better outcomes because they're thinking strategically while opponents are reacting emotionally. Calculation doesn't mean being passive or weak. It means being surgical. Rather than brutal, precise rather than explosive, strategic rather than emotional. The calculated fighter strikes exactly where it will do the most good, exactly when it will have the most impact, exactly how it will create the most advantage. In conflict, your emotions are intelligence for your enemies. Every time you lose, Control, you reveal something they can use against you. Every time you react predictably, you give them power over your responses. Every time you fight on their terms, you surrender the strategic advantage. Stay calculated. Stay controlled. Stay strategic. Let others exhaust themselves with loud emotional battles while you win the wars that actually matter. In conflict, the last one standing is rarely the loudest one fighting. Before you speak, your reputation speaks for you. Before you act, your reputation sets expectations. Before you even enter the room, your reputation has already shaped how people will receive. Your words interpret your actions and judge your character. Reputation is not what you think about yourself. It's what others believe about you. And it's the most powerful force multiplying or destroying your influence. Your reputation precedes you into every negotiation, every opportunity, every relationship. It determines whether people trust your word before you give it, respect your opinion before you share it, and believe your promises before you make them. A strong reputation opens doors that would otherwise remain locked. A damaged reputation closes doors that should be open. Watch how reputation operates in the real world. The person known for reliability gets offers that others must beg for. The individual recognized for excellence attracts opportunities while others chase them. The leader whose reputation commands respect can accomplish with a suggestion what others cannot achieve with demands, but reputation is also a weapon that others can use against you. Every mistake becomes amplified. Every failure gets remembered longer. Every weakness becomes a point of attack. This is why reputation must be protected as fiercely as any physical asset, because unlike money or property, reputation cannot be quickly replaced once lost. Here's what most people don't understand about reputation building. It's not about marketing yourself or creating false impressions. It's about consistently demonstrating the qualities you want to be known for until that demonstration becomes your identity in others' minds. It's about making your character so clear and consistent that people can predict your response to any situation. The careless person thinks reputation takes care of itself. They believe good intentions are enough, that occasional good work will outweigh frequent mediocrity, that people will judge them fairly based on their latest actions rather than their overall pattern. This is naive and dangerous thinking. Reputation is built slowly through countless small actions and can be destroyed quickly through one major mistake. It's like a bank account where every positive action makes a deposit and every negative action makes a withdrawal. The goal is to build such a large balance of positive reputation that occasional withdrawals don't destroy your credibility. Think about the people whose reputations command your automatic respect. What patterns of behavior created that respect? How consistently do they demonstrate the qualities they're known for? How carefully do they guard against actions that would contradict their established character? Your reputation should be designed, not accidental. Decide what qualities you want to be known for, then ruthlessly align your actions with those qualities. If you want to be known for reliability, never miss a deadline, never break a promise, never fail to follow through. If you want to be known for integrity, never compromise your values for convenience, never speak one way and act another. But let me ask you this. What reputation are you building with your current pattern of behavior? If someone had to describe your character based only on your actions over the past year, what would they say? Are you building the reputation you want, or are you accidentally creating one you'll regret? Start building your reputation intentionally today. Every interaction is a chance to reinforce or contradict your intended character. Every promise is an opportunity to build trust or destroy it. Every decision is a vote for the kind of person you want to be known as. Understand that reputation has a compound effect. Early investments in reputation pay dividends for decades. The person who builds a reputation for excellence in their 20s enjoys opportunities in their 40s that others cannot access. The individual who establishes credibility early commands respect later, even when facing challenges. But reputation must be maintained, not just built. One major breach of character can undo years of careful construction. This is why successful people are often seemingly obsessive about consistency. They understand that their reputation is too valuable to risk for momentary advantage or convenience. The person with a strong reputation has several strategic advantages. They attract better opportunities because people prefer working with known quantities they can trust. They recover from setbacks more quickly because their track record suggests the setback is an exception, not a pattern. They can take calculated risks because their reputation provides a safety net of credibility. Your reputation also determines how your mistakes are interpreted. When someone with a strong reputation makes an error, people assume it was an aberration and expect correction. When someone with a weak reputation makes the same error, people assume it confirms their character and expect repetition. This is why protecting your reputation sometimes means avoiding situations where you cannot control the outcome. It means declining opportunities that offer high reward but higher reputational risk. It means being more careful about who you associate with because their reputation affects yours by proximity. Reputation is not about being perfect. It's about being consistent. People can respect and trust someone who consistently demonstrates clear values, even if they disagree with those values. But they cannot respect or trust someone whose character seems to change based on circumstances. Your reputation is your most valuable asset because it's the foundation for all other assets. It determines who wants to work with you, invest in you, follow you, trust you. It's the difference between having to prove yourself repeatedly and having others assume your competence. Build your reputation like you would build a fortress, carefully, consistently, with attention to every detail. Protect it like you would protect your life, because in many ways, your reputation is your professional and social life. Guard it, nurture it, invest in it. It's the armor that protects you and the weapon that advances your cause. Need is the enemy of negotiation. Desperation is the death of dignity. The moment others sense you must have something, you lose all power to obtain it on favorable terms. The person who appears to need nothing gets everything offered freely. The person who shows they need everything gets nothing offered fairly. Desperation has a scent that people can detect from across the room. It changes your posture, your voice, your decision-making patterns. It makes you accept deals you should reject, tolerate treatment you should refuse, and compromise values you should defend. Desperate people make desperate choices, and desperate choices create desperate outcomes. Watch how desperation operates in every context. The job seeker who seems desperate for any position gets low offers and poor treatment. The business owner who appears desperate for customers gets taken advantage of by clients who sense weakness. The person desperate for love attracts partners who exploit that desperation rather than honor it. But the person who operates from abundance, or appears to, commands respect and attracts opportunity. They get better offers because people assume they have alternatives. They receive better treatment because others know they won't tolerate less. They inspire confidence because confidence cannot coexist with desperation. Here's what most people don't understand about abundance versus scarcity mindset. It's not about actually having unlimited options. It's about never letting others see how much you need what they're offering. It's about maintaining composure even when stakes are high, dignity even when outcomes matter deeply, and choice even when options seem limited. The desperate person reveals their bottom line immediately. They show their maximum budget, their minimum requirements, their deadline pressures. They negotiate from weakness because they've demonstrated that they cannot walk away. They get the scraps because they've shown they'll take whatever is offered. But the person who masters the appearance of abundance keeps their true needs hidden. They present options, not ultimatums. They suggest possibilities, not requirements. They explore opportunities, not necessities. They maintain the poker face that suggests they could walk away even when walking away would be costly. This principle applies beyond negotiations to every aspect of influence. The employee who seems desperate to keep their job gets exploited with extra work and delayed promotions. The employee who appears to have options gets respect and advancement opportunities. The difference isn't always in their actual situations. It's in how they present their circumstances. Think about the most powerful people you encounter. Do they ever seem desperate for your approval, your business, your attention? Or do they project the confidence that comes from having multiple options and the strength to exercise them? Do they chase opportunities or attract them? Do they beg for consideration or command it? But let me ask you this. When have you negotiated from desperation and gotten poor results? How many times have you revealed your needs too early and watched your leverage disappear? How often have you accepted less than you deserved because you couldn't afford to walk away, or couldn't make others believe you would? Start practicing abundance thinking today, especially when resources feel scarce. This doesn't mean lying about your situation, but it means not advertising your limitations. It means presenting strength even when you feel weak, options even when choices seem limited, confidence even when outcomes are uncertain. Learn to delay revealing your true needs until you understand the full landscape of possibilities. Ask questions before answering them. Explore what's available before committing to what you'll accept. Understand their constraints before revealing yours. The person who speaks second often negotiates better because they have more information. Master the art of strategic alternatives. Even when you strongly prefer one outcome, maintain the appearance that other options exist. Even when you need something urgently, avoid communicating that urgency to the other party. Even when you're working with limited resources, don't let those limitations limit your presentation of possibilities. The abundance mindset isn't about having everything. It's about believing you deserve good outcomes and acting accordingly. It's about treating yourself as valuable enough to command fair treatment, important enough to be taken seriously, worthy enough to receive respect. When you operate from scarcity, you make decisions based on fear of loss. When you operate from abundance, you make decisions based on potential for gain. The first approach leads to accepting whatever is offered. The second approach leads to creating better offers. This doesn't mean becoming arrogant or unrealistic about your circumstances. It means refusing to let your circumstances dictate your dignity. It means maintaining your standards even when maintaining them requires sacrifice. It means projecting strength even when you feel vulnerable. The desperate person accepts the first offer because they fear it might be the only offer. The abundant person evaluates the first offer as one of many possibilities, even when it might actually be the only one available. This difference in approach often creates the difference in outcomes they receive. Your energy changes when you believe you have choices. Your posture improves when you feel valuable. Your negotiation skills sharpen when you're not afraid of losing what you're trying to gain. Others sense this energy and respond to it by treating you as someone worthy of better offers. The irony is that people are often more willing to help those who seem like they don't desperately need help. They're more attracted to those who don't seem to need their attention. They offer more to those who appear to have alternatives. This isn't cruelty, it's human nature responding to the confidence that comes from abundance thinking. Even when your situation is genuinely difficult, avoid broadcasting that difficulty. Handle your challenges privately while presenting competence publicly. Solve your problems quietly while maintaining your reputation for strength. Work through your struggles internally while projecting confidence externally. The person who masters this balance can navigate difficult periods without damaging their long-term position. They can seek help without appearing weak, pursue opportunities without seeming desperate, and work through challenges without losing the respect of others. Remember that desperation is often temporary, but the reputation for being desperate can last much longer. The person who appears desperate during negotiations may be seen as weak in all future interactions. The individual who seems desperate for approval may be treated as less valuable in all subsequent relationships. Abundance thinking is a choice that creates its own reality. When you believe you deserve good outcomes, you're more likely to pursue them. When you act as if you have options, you're more likely to discover them. When you refuse to accept poor treatment, you're more likely to receive better treatment. Your worth is not determined by your current circumstances. Your value is not diminished by temporary setbacks. Your power is not eliminated by present challenges. These are all temporary conditions that can change, but the mindset you bring to these conditions determines how quickly and completely they change. Never negotiate from desperation. Never make important decisions when you feel cornered. Never accept poor treatment just because your alternatives seem limited. The person who maintains dignity in difficult circumstances often finds that circumstances improve more quickly than expected. Desperation destroys authority because it signals that you're willing to accept whatever is offered rather than what you deserve. Abundance thinking builds authority because it signals that you expect fair treatment and have the strength to wait for it. Project abundance. Maintain dignity. Preserve options. Even when the situation feels desperate, refuse to let desperation drive your decisions. In the game of influence, those who appear to need nothing often receive everything, while those who clearly need everything often get nothing. Your authority depends on others believing you have choices. Protect that belief, even when choices feel limited. Your power depends on others respecting your standards. Maintain those standards even when pressure mounts to lower them. The person who owns their emotions owns the battlefield. Every situation becomes a contest between those who can think clearly under pressure and those who cannot. The emotionally detached player sees opportunities that emotion blinds others to, makes decisions that emotion prevents others from making, and executes strategies that emotion causes others to abandon. Emotional detachment is not emotional death. It's emotional mastery. It's the ability to feel everything while being controlled by nothing. It's the skill of experiencing anger without being driven by it, fear without being paralyzed by it, excitement without being blinded by it. It's the supreme tactical advantage in any human conflict. Watch how emotions destroy strategic thinking. Anger makes people reckless, causing them to attack when they should retreat. Fear makes people conservative, causing them to retreat when they should attack. Excitement makes people hasty, causing them to act when they should wait. Sadness makes people passive, causing them to wait when they should act. But the emotionally detached person uses emotions as information, not as commands. They feel anger and investigate what boundary was crossed. They experience fear and examine what threat requires response. They notice excitement and evaluate whether the opportunity is real. They acknowledge sadness and determine what loss needs to be processed. Here's what most people don't understand about emotional detachment. It's not about becoming cold or unfeeling. It's about creating space between what you feel and how you respond. In that space lives your power to choose your actions based on what serves your objectives, not what satisfies your impulses. The emotionally reactive person is predictable and therefore controllable. Push this button, get that response. Apply this pressure, create that reaction. Say these words, trigger that behavior. They have programmed themselves to be manipulated by anyone who understands their emotional triggers. But the emotionally detached person is unpredictable and, therefore, uncontrollable. Their responses don't correlate directly with their feelings. They might respond to insult with curiosity, to threat with calmness, to opportunity with careful analysis, rather than immediate action. This unpredictability gives them enormous strategic advantage. Think about the most effective people you know under pressure. Do they make better decisions when emotions are high or when they can think clearly? Do they perform better when they're angry, afraid, or excited, or when they're calm and focused? Do they inspire confidence when they're reactive or when they're controlled? The battlefield of business, relationships, and personal development rewards those who can maintain clarity when others lose it. The negotiator who stays calm while others become emotional gets better deals. The leader who remains steady while others panic inspires confidence. The individual who thinks clearly while others react emotionally sees solutions that others miss. But let me ask you this. How many poor decisions have you made while in the grip of strong emotions? How many opportunities have you missed because you couldn't think clearly under pressure? How many relationships have suffered because you reacted emotionally when strategic thinking was needed? Start practicing emotional detachment today. When you feel strong emotions rising, pause and ask yourself, what is this emotion telling me about the situation? What would be the most strategic response regardless of how I feel? What action would serve my long-term objectives rather than my immediate emotional needs? This doesn't mean suppressing emotions, which often leads to explosive releases at inappropriate times. It means acknowledging emotions while maintaining executive control over your responses. Feel the anger, but choose your words carefully. Experience the fear, but don't let it limit your options. Notice the excitement, but don't let it override your judgment. The emotionally detached person gains several tactical advantages. They can negotiate better because they're not driven by the need to win emotionally. They're focused on winning, actually. They can lead better because they model the calm strength that others want to follow. They can think better because their mental resources aren't consumed by emotional processing. Master the art of the strategic pause. When emotions spike, create time and space before responding. Count to 10, take a walk, sleep on the decision. The emotion will often pass, leaving clearer thinking in its wake. The urgent decision that seemed critical, while emotional, often appears manageable when approached with detachment. Learn to separate your feelings from your identity. You are not your anger, your fear, your excitement, or your sadness. You are the consciousness that experiences these emotions and chooses how to respond to them. This separation gives you power over emotional states rather than being victimized by them. The emotionally detached person can also use others' emotional reactions strategically. While their opponents are clouded by feeling, they can see clearly. While others are reacting impulsively, they can respond purposefully. While competitors are driven by emotion, they can be driven by logic. This is why emotional detachment is tactical supremacy. In any conflict, competition, or challenge, the person who can think most clearly under pressure holds decisive advantage. They see options that others miss, make connections that others cannot, and execute plans that others abandon under emotional pressure. Your emotions are valuable data about your environment and your needs, but they are terrible decision makers and poor strategists. Use them for information, not for direction. Feel everything, but let wisdom, not impulse, guide your actions. In the game of life, emotional detachment is not withdrawal from the game. It's playing the game at a higher level. It's the difference between being played by your emotions and playing with emotional intelligence. Master this distinction, and you master the most important battlefield of all, the one between your ears. Chaos is not your enemy. It's your opportunity. When storms rage and foundations shake, the weak reveal their weakness and the strong reveal their strength. Crisis doesn't create character, it reveals it. In moments of maximum uncertainty, those built for command separate themselves from those built for following. Most people fear chaos because it threatens their comfortable illusions of control and security. They believe power comes from stability, influence from predictability, and success from controlled environments. This is backward thinking. Real power is revealed not in calm seas, but in perfect storms. Watch what happens when chaos strikes any organization, relationship, or community. Some people panic, others retreat, and many simply freeze, but a few individuals step forward. They see opportunity where others see only threat. They take action while others debate. They provide clarity when everyone else contributes to confusion. Chaos strips away pretense and reveals reality. The person who seemed powerful in structured environments may crumble when structure disappears. The individual who appeared weak in normal circumstances may emerge as a natural leader when leadership is desperately needed. Crisis is the great revealer of true capacity. Here's what most people don't understand about chaos and power. Chaos doesn't diminish power, it concentrates it. When normal systems fail, when usual authorities prove inadequate, when standard approaches don't work, people become desperate for anyone who can provide direction, solutions, or simple competence. Under pressure, the person who can remain calm while others panic, think clearly while others become confused, and act decisively while others hesitate, gains enormous influence during chaotic periods. They become the eye of the storm that others seek for stability. They become the fixed point around which chaos organizes itself into new order. Think about every major historical advance, every great business success, every significant personal transformation. How many occurred during periods of chaos, uncertainty, or crisis? How many leaders emerged not from comfortable circumstances, but from challenging ones? How many opportunities were created by disruption rather than stability? But chaos only reveals power. It doesn't create it. The strength that emerges during crisis was always there, waiting for circumstances that would require its expression. The leadership that surfaces during emergency was always present, needing only the right conditions to manifest. This is why you must prepare for chaos before it arrives. Not by trying to prevent it, that's impossible, but by building the internal resources that chaos will reveal. Develop the calm that pressure cannot shake. Build the clarity that confusion cannot cloud. Cultivate the decisiveness that uncertainty cannot paralyze. But let me ask you this. When was the last time you faced genuine chaos in your life? How did you respond? Did you shrink from the challenge or grow to meet it? Did you wait for someone else to take charge, or did you step forward? Did you see only problems, or did you also see possibilities? Start using smaller disruptions to build your chaos navigation skills. When plans change unexpectedly, practice adapting quickly rather than complaining. When technology fails, focus on solutions rather than frustration. When conflicts arise, work toward resolution rather than escalation. Learn to see chaos as information rather than enemy. Disruption reveals weaknesses in current systems, creating opportunities for better alternatives. Crisis exposes who can be trusted under pressure and who cannot. Uncertainty forces innovation by making standard approaches inadequate. The person who masters chaos gains several strategic advantages. They attract followers during uncertain times because people gravitate toward stability and competence. They discover opportunities that others miss because they're not paralyzed by fear. They build resilience and adaptability that serves them. Long after the chaos passes, master the art of calm presence during storms. When everyone else is running around frantically, move with purpose. When others are speaking loudly from emotion, speak quietly from knowledge. When chaos is creating noise, become the silence that others seek for relief. Use chaos to clarify your priorities. Crisis has a way of separating what matters from what merely seems to matter. When resources become scarce, you discover what's truly essential. When time becomes precious, you identify what's actually important. When pressure mounts, you learn what you really value. The chaos master also learns to create strategic disruption when beneficial. Sometimes the existing order serves others' interests more than yours. Sometimes the current structure prevents necessary change. Sometimes stability means stagnation. The person who can introduce controlled chaos gains power to reshape circumstances in their favor. This doesn't mean creating destructive chaos or unnecessary crisis. It means understanding that some level of disruption is often necessary for progress, innovation, and growth. It means being willing to disturb comfort zones when comfort zones prevent advancement. Chaos will come to your life whether you invite it or not. Economic disruption, technological change, relationship challenges, health crises, career transitions, uncertainty is guaranteed. The question is not whether you'll face chaos, but whether you'll use chaos to demonstrate and develop your power. When the storm hits your life, remember this: everyone is watching to see who will step forward and who will step back. Everyone is looking for someone who can navigate uncertainty with competence and confidence. Everyone is desperate for leadership when leadership is scarce. Use chaos to clarify your power. Let crisis reveal your strength. Allow uncertainty to demonstrate your value. In the moments when everything seems to be falling apart, show that you are built to hold things together. That's when real influence is born and authentic leadership is revealed. Your true influence is measured not by what happens when you're present, but by what continues when you're absent. Anyone can command attention while standing in the room. The real test of power is whether your voice is heard even when your mouth is silent, whether your guidance shapes decisions even when you're not there to give it. The desperate leader believes that influence requires constant presence, endless availability, and perpetual visibility. They attend every meeting, involve themselves in every decision, and insert their opinion into every conversation. They confuse activity with authority and mistake being needed for being respected, but watch how true influence operates. The person whose ideas shape conversations they never joined. The individual whose principles guide decisions in their absence. The leader whose vision continues to direct action, even when they're not there to enforce it. This is influence that has transcended presence and become part of the culture itself. Presence can be forced. Influence cannot. You can make people listen while you're talking, but you cannot make them think about your words after you've stopped speaking. You can demand attention while you're in the room, but you cannot control what happens when you leave. Real influence earns these things naturally. Here's what most people don't understand about absence and authority. Distance often increases respect more than proximity does. The person who is always available becomes less valuable, not more. The individual who can be reached at any time loses the mystique that makes others eager for their attention. Scarcity creates value even with people. Think about the most influential people in your life. How much time do you actually spend with them compared to how much time you spend thinking about what they've taught you? How often do you hear their voices in your head making decisions, solving problems, evaluating opportunities? That's influence that has survived absence and become permanent. The constantly present person trains others to become dependent on their presence. They solve problems that others should learn to solve, make decisions that others should learn to make, and provide guidance that others should learn to develop internally. They become indispensable for the wrong reasons, because they've prevented others from becoming capable. But the strategically absent person trains others to internalize their wisdom. They share principles that can be applied independently, teach methods that work without supervision, and demonstrate thinking patterns that others can adopt. They become influential for the right reasons, because they've multiplied their capacity through others. This principle applies beyond leadership to every relationship. The friend whose advice you seek, even when they're unavailable, holds more influence than the one who's always offering unwanted opinions. The mentor whose lessons guide you years later had more impact than the one who micromanaged your every move. The partner whose values you carry with you influences you more than the one who must constantly remind you of expectations. But let me ask you this: what happens to your projects when you're not there to oversee them? Do people continue following your vision, or do they drift back to old patterns? Do your ideas continue generating momentum, or do they require your constant energy to survive? Do others internalize your methods, or do they depend on your presence to maintain standards? Start building influence that survives absence. Instead of being the person who solves every problem, become the person who teaches others to solve problems. Using your approach, instead of making every decision yourself, involve others in decision-making while demonstrating your thinking process. Instead of being indispensable, make your methods indispensable. Learn the art of strategic withdrawal. After establishing your presence and demonstrating your value, step back and let others apply what you've shared. This tests whether your influence has taken root or was merely dependent on your presence. It reveals who truly embraced your approach versus who was simply complying while you watched. The person who earns influence in absence gains several advantages. They can multiply their impact because their influence operates through multiple people simultaneously. They can focus their energy on new challenges while previous influence continues operating automatically. They build loyalty based on genuine respect rather than dependency or fear. Master the balance between presence and absence. Be present enough to establish your value, demonstrate your competence, and share your wisdom. But be absent enough to let others internalize what you've shared, apply it independently, and prove that your influence has become part of their thinking process. This doesn't mean becoming aloof or unavailable when genuinely needed. It means understanding when your presence adds value and when it prevents others from developing their own capacity. It means knowing when to step in and when to step back, when to guide, and when to let others navigate using the compass you've provided. Your presence should plant seeds of influence. Your absence should allow those seeds to grow. The influence that requires your constant presence to survive isn't really influence, it's dependency. But the influence that continues growing in your absence is the kind that changes cultures, organizations, and lives permanently. True influence is earned by making yourself so valuable that others want to carry your lessons with them, so respected, that they seek to honor your principles even when you're not watching, so trusted that they apply your methods even when they could take shortcuts. The ultimate test of your influence is simple. Does your impact continue when you're not there? To create it, do people make decisions based on principles you've shared? Do they solve problems using methods you've taught? Do they pursue excellence to standards you've demonstrated? Influence earned in absence is influence that lasts. Build it carefully, test it regularly, and trust it to multiply your impact far beyond what your presence alone could ever achieve. The ultimate goal is not cruelty, it is control. Not domination through terror, but influence through respect so complete that resistance becomes unthinkable. The ideal leader is loved for their wisdom and feared for their strength, respected for their character, and avoided for their capacity to respond decisively when challenged. But above all, they are never weak. Weakness is the one unforgivable sin in leadership. People can forgive harshness if it serves justice, but they cannot respect softness that enables injustice. They can understand firmness that maintains standards, but they lose faith in leniency that abandons principles. They can follow strength even when it's uncomfortable, but they cannot follow weakness even when it's pleasant. The weak leader believes that being liked is enough. They confuse popularity with authority, mistake approval for respect, and think that avoiding difficult decisions makes them compassionate. They discover too late that kindness without strength is merely weakness disguised as virtue, and weakness, no matter how well-intentioned, creates chaos that hurts everyone. Here's what most people don't understand about fear and love in leadership. They are not opposites. They are complementary forces that together create the complete respect necessary for true authority. Love without fear becomes permissiveness that destroys standards. Fear without love becomes tyranny that destroys loyalty. But fear and love together create the powerful combination of willing obedience and genuine respect. People should love you for what you do for them, the opportunities you create, the growth you enable, the vision you provide, the protection you offer. But they should also fear disappointing you, fear losing your respect, fear the consequences of violating the principles you uphold. This fear is not terror. It's the healthy recognition that actions have consequences and that your standards matter. Watch how this plays out in every successful relationship, organization, or community. The parent who is both loved and appropriately feared raises confident, disciplined children. The leader who combines warmth with firmness builds loyal, high-performing teams. The teacher who cares deeply but demands excellence creates students who achieve beyond their own expectations. But the leader who tries to be loved without being respected becomes ineffective. Their kindness gets taken advantage of. Their generosity gets exploited. Their mercy gets interpreted as weakness. They find that people stop seeking their approval because their approval comes too easily and means too little. Think about the most effective leaders you've encountered. Did they rule through fear alone, making everyone miserable? Did they lead through pure kindness, allowing standards to slide? Or did they combine genuine care for people with unwavering commitment to principles? Did they make you want to perform well to earn their respect and afraid to perform poorly and lose it? The balanced leader creates an environment where people want to succeed because they believe in the mission, and afraid to fail because they respect the standards. They inspire loyalty through their investment in others' growth and maintain discipline through their consistent enforcement of consequences. This balance requires tremendous wisdom because it demands different responses to different situations. Sometimes love means giving someone an opportunity they haven't quite earned yet. Sometimes fear means enforcing consequences, even when it's painful. Sometimes love means pushing someone beyond their comfort zone. Sometimes fear means showing them what happens when standards aren't met. But let me ask you this. In your leadership roles, whether formal or informal, do people respect your standards or ignore them? Do they fear disappointing you or feel comfortable letting you down? Do they love the opportunities you provide or take them for granted? Do they see you as someone who cares enough to maintain high expectations? Start building the balance today. Show people you care about their success, but also show them that success requires meeting specific standards. Demonstrate that you'll support their growth, but also that you'll address their failures. Prove that you want the best for them, but also that the best has a clear definition with clear consequences for falling short. The goal is to become the kind of person others want to please and hate to disappoint. Someone whose approval means something because it's earned, not given freely. Someone whose displeasure matters because it comes from caring, not from arbitrary power. Someone who combines high standards with high support. This doesn't mean being unpredictable or manipulative. It means being consistently committed to both people's potential and the principles that help them reach it. It means caring enough about people to demand their best effort and strong enough in your convictions to enforce that demand. The leader who achieves this balance discovers something remarkable. They rarely need to use their power because everyone understands they have it. They rarely need to enforce consequences because everyone works to avoid them. They rarely need to demand respect because respect is given freely to those who have earned the right to expect it. Never be weak. Weakness serves no one well. It doesn't help you accomplish your objectives. It doesn't inspire others to grow. And it doesn't create the kind of environment where excellence can flourish. Strength balanced with genuine care creates the conditions where both leaders and followers can achieve things they never thought possible. Be feared and loved, but never weak. Let people love your vision and fear your resolve. Let them appreciate your support and respect your standards. Let them want to rise to your expectations and worry about falling short of them. This is the Machiavellian ideal. Power exercised with such skill that it appears effortless. Strength demonstrated with such consistency that it becomes trusted. Leadership practiced with such balance that it inspires both affection and appropriate respect. You already have what it takes. Now go prove it.